Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to A Gathering Place. Today is the second Wednesday, and we focus on environment and energy conversations because this is brought to you through a generous grant provided by the United States Energy Foundation. And we have a lot to talk about today. Specifically, in my hometown, Georgetown County, we're looking at a land use plan and a citizen survey. We want to talk about this survey, our land use plan, and why it's important to have engaged citizens. We participate by completing this survey. Folks, we got to make this happen. We're going to learn more about it with Harley Richardson. And also, April Jones is joining us from the Pinehurst Community Garden. We're going to learn more about the Pinehurst Community Garden and the organization that's making it happen. And, I'm excited about it because this is about environmental justice, economic justice, and the things that you can do in your community to make things happen. And we're going to hear more about this right after this opening.
Hello, I'm Marilyn Hemingway, and welcome to A Gathering Place. I said, I'm stepping back because we have young voices who want to be heard, and they're moving on something.
Branding is really important to you and your business.
Even a basic type of technology, you'll learn it all.
And people are
Good question. Well, folks, we're back to talk about our second Wednesday environment and energy conversations. And first up today, we got a lot to talk about. And first up today is what's happening in Georgetown County. You know what to do, folks. Drop your questions and comments in our comment section because we want to hear from you. Not only is this important for Georgetown County, but being engaged citizens wherever you live is very important. So I hope that you take a lesson from this also and learn something, why it's so important to stay in touch with your county government and be an engaged citizen. Let's go ahead and bring in our special guest, Miss Harley Richardson. Hey, Harley, how are you?
Hi, Marilyn. How are you?
I'm great. It's good to see you. So let me make sure I get this right. You are Director of Planning and Code Enforcement.
That's right. Planning and Code Enforcement for Georgetown County. But that covers zoning.
I don't know where I got that zone from. So
that's right. It's all the same. It's all good.
All right, very good. So we got you here, Harley, because we are in the midst in Georgetown County of creating the land use plan for the county, which will impact us for the next 10 or 20 years. And I know we're focusing on Georgetown, so we're going to talk about Georgetown, but you may have heard me mention, y'all, it's important that everyone becomes engaged with their local government. And this is just a prime example of why we should be engaged, this land use plan. So let's start off, let's start off basic, because I like to start off basic. What is a land use plan? Explain that to me, then we'll get into why we have this survey and why it's important to be engaged. But what is a land use plan?
Sure. So the land use plan is actually sometimes called an element, and it's part of the larger comprehensive plan. The state of South Carolina, and I'm sure many other states do too, requires that if your county does zoning, if you zone for different uses, if you say houses go here and commercial uses go here, then you have to have a comprehensive plan. The plan has, I think ours has 11 elements, and land use is just one of those 11 elements. So we're working on other elements too. We've looked at things like cultural resources, housing is going on right now. Land use is sort of the biggest, the shiniest one. And I would say the one that more kind of affects your day-to-day life. A land use plan talks about how you want your county to develop over the next 10 or 20 years. Where do you want commercial uses to be? Where do you see the need for multifamily apartments? Where do you need affordable housing? Where do you want to put an emphasis on protecting natural resources? It's kind of the picture of what your county is going to look like in the future.
All right, very good. So you said there are what, 10 or 11 elements. And I think on the right hand side of my screen, maybe it's the left hand side of the viewer screen, we have community facilities, cultural resource, economic development, and so on, housing. And now we're in land use. So a quick question as you were talking that occurred to me: does each element have a community survey attached to it, or is it just for land use?
This survey is just for land use. This is the first time since I've been here, and I've been here about 15 years, that we've kind of done a survey to kick off an element.
Okay.
I think that you'll see that the survey touches on some things that are in the other elements too, but we haven't done a survey like this for any of the other elements. So this is a new kind of exciting tool for us. We're excited to see what kind of feedback we get.
So this would be to engage citizens more, another method to engage citizens in this process of developing a comprehensive plan.
That's right. We're calling this kind of the kickoff to the land use process. We had some drafts out there before, and we kind of have taken a step back. The Planning Commission and Council wanted some more public input. They wanted to hear from the citizens. So this is a way to kick that off. You can do it online. It's the initial process. Put your thoughts there. There are about 20 questions. And further down the line, we do want to come to the communities and have some, hopefully with COVID, we can, some face-to-face meetings, get around the table with some markers and kind of get down to the nitty gritty. But this is a big level overview, sort of kickoff effort where you can give us your initial thoughts.
And if anybody knows Marilyn Hemingway, you know that I believe in community engagement. So it is good to hear that, one, there is a survey for us to be engaged, but you plan on additional public meetings to further this cause, to move forward in this process of developing this comprehensive plan. And you'll be hearing more from me, folks. I'm going to make sure people know when these things are announced that you need to know when, where, and how to get engaged, because it's so important that we do this not only in Georgetown County, but in your hometown also. So we have this survey, and how long do you think this survey will take to complete?
We are guessing between 15 and 20 minutes. Matter of fact, the survey, I was looking at it earlier, and it gives me kind of a response time. It looks like it's taking people about 18, 19 minutes.
Okay. And let's say I want to take the survey and do it, but I have some issues. Let's say I don't have computer access. What can I do?
So we do have paper copies of the survey. We understand not everybody will have computer access. So if you need a paper copy, you can certainly contact us. There's an email, I think, on that webpage, or you can call the planning department at Georgetown County. They also should have paper copies available at our library branches throughout the county and the recreation centers as well. But certainly call us here at the planning department if you have any issues, and we will do our best to get you a paper copy in your hands.
And y'all can contact the Gallagher Chamber of Commerce, because we have some copies too. And at the bottom of our screen, we'll have scrolling the link. If you are computer savvy, comfortable with computers, you can click the link that we have scrolling down below and go and let's knock out that survey. As a matter of fact, right now, while you are watching this show, go ahead and click that link and go to that survey and do it while you're watching the show. That's my challenge to you right now. Go to the link, complete that survey right now for Georgetown County. Something else you told me, Harley, about this. You're looking for folks who not only live in the county, but if you work in the county, can you complete the survey also?
Yes. I think people who work here have a vested interest. They drive our roads. They sit in the traffic. They have an interest in jobs. And also you may want to live here in the future. So the kind of future development affects you too. There's a very short, you don't have to leave your name, and please don't, but there's a short demographic section at the end where it asks, do you live in Georgetown County? Do you work in Georgetown County? What section are you from? So, we'll be able to pull those out. But yes, we would love to hear from people that work here as well.
Okay, folks. So it's important that you complete this, not only if you live in Georgetown, but if you work in Georgetown County also. I plan on doing it, but not only am I planning on doing it through the Gallagher Chamber of Commerce, we have hard copies. We're sharing that with our resources within the community to get it out to further into the community. And also, we're going to be at events where you can come to the event and complete it. at the event. So y'all just stay tuned with us. And there was another question I had as I was talking, Holly, about the community survey demographics, where the county, across the county, you could live and work here. And I can't remember what my question was.
Well, let me add too, Marilyn. The
Please do.
survey is mostly multiple choice questions, but there are several open-ended questions too. It asks about, what do you value most about Georgetown County? And I think the biggest question is about a vision, is what do you want your county to look like in the next 10 years? Give us a positive statement about, if you could paint a picture with words, what would it be? So it's not just checking the A, B, and C's, but there's room for you to really give us your thoughts, and we're going to try to analyze those and bring that information back at the community meetings.
And I think that is so important. 2 reasons. I'm glad to hear that there's a push to have direct community citizens engagement, resident citizens engagement. That is so important, to hear diverse voices on that. And also the fact that you can express the vision that you would like to see for Georgetown County. That's so vital to the process and making our voices heard. And we have an opportunity to do that. So I'm glad to hear that also. And then Harley, I want to make sure, because on the website, it says December 20th is the deadline. And I know that's not correct. And I know you guys are correcting that, because you have extended the deadline. What is the deadline to have this survey completed?
The new deadline is January 20th. So we're short. We're kind of right up on it. So certainly log in as soon as you can, or contact us if you need some more information or some more copies. We're really trying to do a push these last couple of weeks.
That's right. And you told me the last time we talked, where I invited you onto the show, you said there are approximately 1,400 surveys have been completed, and 70% have been in the Waccamaw Neck. And what we're really seeking is a more balanced representation of the county. Is that correct?
That's right. Georgetown County is a large, like you said, diverse county with many different interests and need. We go from the Murrells Inlet sort of urban area out to Plantersville and the farms of the rural section. And obviously the needs and the concerns are going to be very different. So we want to be sure that when we analyze this survey, it gives us an accurate picture of the whole county. We've gotten, I checked it just today, 1,633 responses so far. And we're still sitting at about that same percentage. So we would love to have the widest one we can.
That's right. So we need to have a more balanced response to this survey. So folks out in Plantersville, PD, Myersville, Potato Bed Ferry, Oakland, Browns Ferry, Lancetown, Andrews, North Santee, Sanpete, Lambertown, Maryville. I'm hitting off the ones. This is just off the top of my head.
Don't forget anybody now.
These little communities, y'all. Pawleys Island, Litchfield, Murrells Inlet, all those, Sandy Island. We need to hear from you. We need to go and complete this survey so that we can hear from all of the diverse variety of areas in this beautiful county of Georgetown. Georgetown's a pretty big county, and people don't realize it. I think it's approximately 800 square miles.
That sounds right.
Yeah. It's a pretty big county, y'all, and we need to hear from all of the areas of the county so we can have a balanced result of this survey, because we're talking the next 10 or 20 years influence, this is another generation that we can influence. And we do have a comment, more local history in the schools on both Horry and Georgetown County on local areas and life. So Maureen, that is a good point, and that's why you need to complete the survey and put it in your results. Good. Thank you, Maureen, for your response. That is correct. We need to have a broad response. Share your vision for Georgetown County. Holly, what else do we need to hear from you as we wrap this up?
I don't think anything, except remember January 20th. Remember that date, and go to the county's webpage. There's a page on the comp plan. You can see all the elements there. And fill out that survey before the 20th. And we'd love to hear from you. And thank you so much for the opportunity, Marilyn. I appreciate it very much.
Holly, thank you. I am delighted that we can help with the outreach on this. This is so important. And, we're ready to make this happen. We are making this happen. Thank you for coming on to the show. And y'all, I'm going to keep that scrolling up for the show, even though Holly has to leave us. But she came in, and thank you for explaining this more so people could really understand not only how important it is to fill out the survey, but to have a greater understanding of the comprehensive plan itself. I really appreciate that, Holly.
Thank you. Hope to hear from all of you.
All right. Thanks, Holly. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
So, y'all, while Holly is leaving us, I want to remind everybody that you are watching A Gathering Place, brought to you by the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce. And today's show, our second Wednesday Environment and Energy Conversation, is brought to you by the United States Energy Foundation. Where's the survey again? We have scrolling at the bottom of our screen the link to the survey. You can actually Google Georgetown County, South Carolina, County Comprehensive Plan, and it will come up. That page will come up, and you can go straight to that page. So right there at the bottom of the screen, we're scrolling. Can city residents fill out the survey? You most certainly can, because you live in Georgetown County. And Georgetown, the city of Georgetown, is the county seat. So yes, city residents, you are still a county resident. You pay county taxes and stuff. You can complete the survey, and I encourage you to please do that. Excellent question, Diane. And Jody, thanks for sharing that link to the survey on your page, because it's very important. Next, we have a very special guest, Miss April Jones with the Pinehurst Community Garden. So let's go ahead and bring April in, and we're going to talk about community gardens for the rest of our time. April, good to see you.
How are you? Hi. Sorry, it's a little dark. I was like, I'm like, hello?
Yeah, you're here. You're good. Good to see you.
I'm
April.
here. Yes,
Yeah.
it's good to see you too.
Yeah. Do you have a lamp in front of you? Because you're a little bit
I'm gonna,
in the shadow.
There
you go.
There you go. Hey.
There you go. There you go. April, I'm so excited to have you here and everything. So if you're ready, I'm ready.
I'm ready. I had to change out to my laptop from my phone. And so here I am. I'm just so excited to be here with you guys.
I'm excited that you're here also because, I love farmers markets. I love community gardens. So every time I have a chance to hear from a community garden, an organization that's doing it, I want to hear from it because I think it, Marilyn Hemingway, everybody, I'm very curious. I love learning. And I love being outside and gardening, my little gardens, and I'm always learning something. So it's always good to have some folks come on. So y'all know, do your thing. Drop them questions. Drop them comments. April is here to make this happen. All right. So I have, let's get started from, like I said, basic with Harley, basic with April. Tell me about your organization, and then let's get into the farmers market. So Pinehurst, tell us about it.
So I'm in the Pinehurst Neighborhood, which is in downtown Columbia. It's right next to Benedict College Stadium, and it's in the capital city of Columbia, South Carolina. And so I love my neighborhood. I love being in the 29204 zip code. It's exciting. It's fun. And we have just a lot of amenities. We have the Benedict Band. We have the Benedict football games. We've had national, well, not national, but like South Carolina wide football games that sound like the Super Bowl. So it's a really fun and exciting place. So I started the Pinehurst Farmers Market about 2.5 years ago because we are in a food apartheid area. And so that means we don't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables and things of that nature. We've taken a hiatus, and we are going to hopefully start back in February. But it's really unsure because of COVID. It's so brutal right now. And it's been such, it's been such a turning point for all of us. And now we have Omicron, which is just out there and rampant. And so we have the Pinehurst Garden, which is exciting. And at the Pinehurst Garden, we really focus on regenerative sustainability, using heirloom seeds. I think that
that's wonderful.
All about like seed sovereignty and heirloom seeds and South Carolina local seeds for sure.
Very good. I love that you're focusing on heirloom seeds. And, I told you I want you to be introduced to Zenobia Harper. She's doing a community garden like yours, urban community garden. She's focused on West African seeds, West African produce, veggies, and to tell our story of the Gullah Geechee. So we all have something to learn from each other. And heirloom, this is just me talking. I think probably will be more endurance, because heirloom is, it endures the weather better and everything than hybrid seeds. So it's good that you're focusing on the heirloom. So why the area that you're in? Why an urban community garden? What kind of like Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm all about land access, right? So we're in the beautiful state of South Carolina, and there is land everywhere. And I think it's important for us to get in touch with the land, to touch the soil, touch the seed, harvest the crop, eat that crop, juice that crop, cook that crop, and just make something beautiful, right? The world is so vibrant and there's so many colors, and you really get to fully experience that when you're gardening.
That's right. You certainly do. For me, when I really became interested in gardening was after my mother passed. And I started out with a small 4x4 and did my soil. And I did basic like tomatoes, okra, things that it was kind of maybe hard to kill. And and it really that was it, for me, that I ate what I grew. And it was one, it tastes better. It looks better. And I remember the day I was in the garden, and I've told my friends this, in the garden weeding. And, I was in that deep grief regarding my mother, but because I was in that soil, I felt my heart start to mend again. And it was in that garden because I really think it takes us back. It says ashes to ashes, dust to dust. It really does take us back to where we begin, that soil, to be there, that good earth, and to have it in an urban setting is so important, because in the urban setting, we tend to be disconnected from where our food comes from.
Yes. Absolutely. And that's one of our initiatives with the Pinehurst Garden, is talking about how people can heal from the trauma. We all have so much trauma, especially with COVID and everything else. So we're specifically talking about how to heal from the trauma of domestic violence using holistic ways. And so I've had a Facebook talk about it, and we've talked to our customers, and we've talked to our community about it. And so absolutely, there's so many holistic, sustainable ways that we can heal from our traumas, for sure, using the land.
Yeah, very good to hear that. I'm going to come back to that holistic way, but let's get into the garden. I have a question, because you are in an urban setting. Do you grow directly into the ground, or do you grow above the ground?
I'm a big proponent of putting in that seed directly into the ground and letting it blossom and grow. And I think that the conversation that we need to have about our land is about land access. Who has access to the land? Why do they have access to the land? Who doesn't have access to the land? And why having land access is important. And why I say that is because I live in a predominantly neighborhood of color, but it's always, how neighborhoods are. They're always ever changing. And we don't have a lot of pesticides in our gardens, in our land. And that's a huge benefit.
So you're doing organic, you're doing natural pesticides rather than chemical pesticides when you say you don't have a lot of pesticides in your garden.
Exactly. So really, I think we're focusing on soil health, plant health, amendments. It's like a science, and it's also kind of like cooking, right? That's how I see it. Building soil is like cooking. You have a recipe, you have, certain things that you're going to put into this dish, but if you're a cooker, which a lot of us are, you kind of just go low. You hear, like, oh, maybe I should add a little salt or a little less pepper. Maybe I'll add a little nutmeg. And then voila, you have your beautiful dish. And it may not be exactly like the recipe, but it's banging. And, you may pass on that tradition to your family. And so it's the same thing with your land skills. You can research and train and study, but you do have to have a heart for it and just put your heart into it and kind of go with the flow.
It's like the saying you were saying with cooking. One, it is science. It's mixing
Yeah.
different soils, different nutrients together. You get a different reaction. Something may be better for tomatoes. It may be better for beans, but that's a science to that. And then it's the same with cooking. You add the salt, you add the nutmeg, because nutmeg will react with this a certain way to get a certain flavor. Salt, it's a preservative, but also it's a flavor enhancer.
Tell about it. Tell it.
And just enough that you put a pinch of salt is different from a tablespoon of salt. When you put a pinch of salt, we're taught, in particular, probably depending on where you live, your mothers, and they say, put a pinch of salt. And I remember my mama doing that. You put a pinch. It's different from a finger. Literally, you don't think about it, but it is. Because there's a science to it. And I love that you made that connection, because it's the same with gardening, that recently I've been hearing about, study your yard before your garden, because you have to understand where the sun hits, how long the sun hits certain areas of your garden, exposure and everything. And it's not necessarily that you're doing it by the book, which is important. You can read about it too, but you could just go in your yard and literally just say, I'm going to study where the sun hits at 10 a.m. This is where the sun is, and this is how long it gets sunlight throughout the day. That informs you. So that's what I love about gardening, because you can have these type of conversations, and it does lend itself to science, but it also lends itself to your heart.
Yes.
You feel the soil, you see the results in not only the gardening, but in the cooking. So what has been the response from the community regarding the garden?
Yeah, I mean, we're in downtown Columbia, so we've had a lot of great response. I mean, people have really enjoyed working in the garden. We've partnered with USC. Their Sierra Club comes out. Their members come out. They help with the garden. We harvest from the garden. We give away produce to our community members. So it's been really a beautiful and collaborative experience. It's been a great opportunity for our community to come together, to build around sustainability, build around land access, build around seed sovereignty, and improve our health. If you are cooking every day, which I'm a big proponent of, you are improving your health every day, and you're making the right decision. And when you grow your own fruits and vegetables, you harvest your own eggs, you are making that journey, that step into wellness, into health, into sustainability, and you're helping the environment. I mean, we have so much climate change and so many things that we're doing that is harming the earth. And the one thing that you can do that can help the earth and help your community and help yourself is to just plant a seed. It makes a difference.
I'm glad you brought up health, because if anyone follows the Gotta Get Your Chamber of Commerce, they know we are about economic justice and environmental justice. And the environmental justice part of it, it's about our sustenance, but it really is to the nitty gritty of, if we have a healthy environment, we then have healthy people. And if you have healthy people, you're going to have a healthy household. And if you have a healthy household, you're going to have a healthy community. So it is vital that we understand what goes into our soil, because that's what feeds us. And the wonderful thing about community gardens, it brings those farms closer to home. But if you really are involved with a community garden, you recognize it, you understand the nutrients that goes into the food. unfortunately, the way a lot of our grocery stores work, by the time the food gets into the grocery store, most of the nutrients are gone.
Yes.
That's one of the reasons what's produced in a community garden or your home garden is you literally can take it off the vine or
Mhm.
out of the ground and taste it, and you can taste the nutrients. You can taste the
Yeah.
goodness.
Yes.
You're getting that
Yes.
wallop right there.
Yes. I love it.
Yeah,
All that is
that's
true.
I mean, you're
Yes.
getting the nutrients. And so, I
Mhm.
mean, I cannot tell you one person that I have spoken to. Most people, when I talk to them about gardening, they
Mhm.
talk about that flavor. Ooh, they talk about
Mhm.
standing in the garden on a hot day and you pull a tomato
Yes.
off the vine. Girl, if that
Yes.
is, oh Lord have mercy. That's some good
It's
stuff.
so true. It's so
That's some good
true.
stuff, y'all. Or a sweet potato out
Absolutely.
the ground. I mean, it really does taste different, and it lends
Mhm.
itself to good health.
Yes, it does. And like you said, with the grocery store, with COVID and Omicron, we've had such supply chain issues. I was just reading in The Guardian today how, so many places are just closing down and cannot operate because people are sick and, your truck driver is sick and can't get the produce to the grocery store, then it's old, it's spoiled, et cetera, et cetera. And so you're really building community resilience and sovereignty in your community, because I think that we're all coming to the realization that you can't rely always on the grocery store. We need to be able to start a commons movement where we are able to rely on our neighbors. So like, your neighbor has chickens, and then they give you eggs and you give them collard greens because those are in season. So, just like starting that kind of communal commons experience. And then also having, a lot of cities set aside certain portions of land that people can garden if they have an apartment or things of that nature. And so we need to invest in those sort of opportunities, because there are opportunities for growth for us as individuals in our community, and for resilience and sovereignty. And we, as South Carolinians, we have the power to make these changes. And we have the most important thing, which is land, honey. We have so much land. We
Which
are
is
so blessed. And a lot of places don't have that.
isn't that so true? And this is one of the reasons I'm so glad that this show, we spoke earlier in particularly in Georgetown County, but it's true for all municipalities, city, counties, the land
Yeah.
use portion. When your area is talking about comprehensive plans and talking about land use, this is actually one of the things that should be part of the conversation. Setting aside green space, setting aside space for community gardens, because it's not just the garden, it's about the health of the community. It's about,
Yeah.
what do we want our community to look like? So it's connecting people that, well, where's this connection? It is all connected. This is all
Yes.
interconnected.
Mhm.
So you spoke of a movement. Do you see
Yes.
this community garden as part of a larger movement in South Carolina? Because I know now of Pinehurst, the
Mhm.
work that you're doing, Fresh
Yeah.
Future Farm in North Charleston.
Yes.
Jermaine Jenkins, I really greatly admire her and the work she's
Amazing.
doing.
Amazing.
Zenobia Harper here in Georgetown with the work that she's doing. Um,
Yes.
if it's not too dark, I might run out there today. I actually gave her a gift of for the herbs today. I saw her
Okay.
early today,
Okay.
when she picks her herbs and stuff. But
Mhm.
do you see a movement? And I'm pretty sure in Greenville there's a community garden across the
Yes.
state where you're all talking to each other and collaborating.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm really hardcore into the sustainability movement. And so I am very connected with my fellow South Carolinians, across the state, but I'm also connected with in solidarity and love with my New Yorkers, right? And
Mhm.
my Vermonters and New Hampshire. And, I'm working with people in Montreal and Toronto. And so what I love about this movement is that it's not just in your localized area. It's not just in your state. It's everywhere, right? Everybody
Mhm.
in the world is going to have to eat. Like that's where we are. It's
Mhm.
2022. I thought we'd be in another place where we could just take a little pill, but we're not. And so we all have to eat. We all have to take in nutrients, right? Our body has to process them and break them down. And we're all interconnected. And so even though sometimes it thinks like, oh, I'm in South Carolina, like it doesn't matter what's going on in New York. It absolutely matters what's going on in New York, because that's going to eventually affect me in South Carolina. And with Montreal, they're our neighbors. We're in the Americas. Like what happens there is going to affect me. We're on the same continent. And so I love that part about sustainability, is that it's worldwide, it's never ending. And, there's always new ideas, new concepts, and new ways that you can incorporate sustainability into your life. And the first step, I always tell people, is just plant a seed. Start off with like an herb, like you stated, like oregano or a mint or a basil. Just use it for teas or just to garnish a dish. And then you can expand from there based on what you like, what you want to eat. And if you don't like beets, don't plant those beets and no one's going to judge you.
That's right. That's right. As I was listening to you, and I had a conversation earlier, and I actually had a number today, so I can't remember exactly which one. But we were talking about neighbors,
Yes.
and I was referencing a previous conversation where I heard someone or read someone saying that we have to recognize that our neighbor is not just the person who lives next door to us.
Yes.
And I have always truly believed that our neighbor, I love what you said. Our neighbor is in Canada. Our neighbor is in New York. Our neighbor's in California. Our neighbor is in Texas. Our neighbor is in Mexico. Our neighbor is in Idaho, Florida,
Yes.
the continent of Africa and the countries there, Europe, those countries, those are our neighbors, because we're all interconnected. And what we put in the soil eventually gets someplace. You see it most, I think, in weather systems, where we had the hot season, the hot spell over Christmas. That wasn't not just some fluke. You actually saw earlier, about a week and a half before it hit us, in Hawaii, where they had snow. But by the time it got to us, we had the heat, but it was still connected. And what we yesterday they were talking about a weather system in California that's going to hit us Sunday, and they're talking about we might get snow.
Yes.
So it's all interconnected, and it was even more interesting about it, and I guess more interesting, but just interesting, is that weather impacts gardening.
Yes.
So you have to pay attention to the seasons.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pay attention to what happens during the seasons.
Yes.
What do you expect? We know now we're in winter, so it should be colder. That impacts when do you plant? When do you put the seeds in the ground? When do you starters in the house? When do you expect them to bloom? When do you expect them to produce the vegetables and etc.? And all of this, it depends on what happens in Japan impacts us. The butterfly effect. You may have heard that. So I'm very delighted to hear you mention that. So what other thoughts you have regarding just the interconnectedness, the garden? As you were talking, I had this image in my mind of being in the garden. You're in the garden and you're talking to your neighbors. Because it's such a conversation starter. It's not just plucking the food; it's that conversations that you have. Any thoughts regarding that?
Yeah, I do. I think that we have really lost so much of our social skills in our country. And I think a lot of it is because we, one, are on our phones all the time. Two, we're workaholics. And then three, we're watching a lot of TV. And so I think that we've lost so many of our social skills. And so when you have a garden, it's an awesome opportunity to pull out those social skills and start working on them. And especially with, COVID and Omicron, gardening is a very safe way for people to come together in small numbers, outdoors, masked, and able to really interact and have socialization in a safe way. And also, it's very easy to socially distance in a garden scenario. And so I just love gardening because they're like skills that we all need to work on. And, planting is like exercise, weeding is exercise, socialization, talking to your neighbors, harvesting is like exercise. And then using your brain to think, like, how am I going to use this crop? Am I going to cook it, boil it, bake it, juice it, eat it raw? And then you can share with your neighbors about your life experiences, what you've been experiencing through COVID and through, all of our different lockdowns. And you have an opportunity to share and express yourself. And then also you have an excellent opportunity for collaborative exchange. By that, I mean, I have radishes, and I like the French radishes that are kind of red, a little pink. And, the other person may like the traditional red radish. Then we can talk about the different variations of radishes and why we like our certain type of radish. And then we can share a dish with radishes. You can fry up those radishes. Unknown fact, but they are delicious.
I'm glad you brought up the variety of radishes. I was actually looking at a seed catalog yesterday in Barnes and Noble. And we don't realize, because of the grocery store, we just be thinking there's one type of radish. When there's such multiple varieties, we be thinking one type of potato.
Yes.
And there are variety of potatoes. We either think white potato or sweet potato. We don't. They're purple potatoes, different kinds. And when you have a community garden, and you mentioned it earlier in the show, the colors in the garden, because you have such a variety. And that seed catalog was like this thick.
Yes.
And
huge.
And it wasn't on my, I go into a bookstore, I go crazy because I love reading. So it wasn't on my list of things to get, so I didn't get it. But I do have a smaller one here at the house that I actually just love looking through the book because it's just pretty. It's beautiful. Because it really is a celebration of our roots, the gardening roots and everything. So go ahead. And then here's Ebony mentioned the almanac, and then so true, getting fresh air, exercise, and socializing. That is so true, Ebony. And also thank you for mentioning the Farmer's Almanac. And then Jacqueline, awesome. It is awesome. Gardening is awesome. This whole thing is awesome. I just love it. It really is. And we talk about this in the sense of food. Yeah. And I'm going to throw up the website for Farmer's Almanac because I just went there since Ebony brought that up, and I wanted to put that up there. But gardening, when we grow vegetables and stuff, some of it is not just like the turnip, for example. You can turnip greens or mustard greens. You can eat the bulb, you can eat the leaves. It's the whole plant. But we can also use some of this stuff even for dyeing clothes. All of this comes from nature. Yes. And you can have your little garden at home, and you can dye clothes, Yes. The endless possibilities of our abundance. And it reminds me, and my friend Zenobia has a community garden here, and we were standing in the community garden one day, and she said to me, Marilyn, this is our abundance. Yes. If you have a garden, you will never go hungry.
Preach. Tell it.
Our abundance is right there. It's not only will you will never go hungry. In her garden, for example, at the end of the garden season, she takes the corn stalks and she twists them, and she made dolls the first season. Oh. She took those dolls and she sold them for like $10, $20 a piece. I think $20. The money she raised from selling the dolls that she made from the corn stalks, she invested back into the garden for the next year. So when she was talking about the abundance, it wasn't not just what we put in our bellies. It was what we can do as entrepreneurs, that we could take what we grew. Yes. And it's the circle of life. Girl, I'm about to break out into the Lion King song here.
I love it. Yeah, and I agree with you. And I think that that is the next frontier for our movement is really rethinking land access, rethinking commons and common spaces that everybody can use because everybody has a right, in my mind, everybody has a right to land and to be able to be housed. We have so many unhoused people in our country. It's tragic. People have a right to education, in my mind, and they have the right to healthcare. And I think having the right to have your own access to land is just what we are and who we are as a country. And I think that that's really the next frontier where we are going. And I'm really excited about the journey.
That's right. Thank you very much. I love the thought that you journey, and yeah, I love talking about journeys also. But before we go on to the next question, I want to remind everyone that you are watching A Gathering Place, brought to you by the Galagichi Chamber of Commerce. And today's show, our second Wednesday Environment and Energy Conversation, is brought to you by the United States Energy Foundation. We recently received an $84,000 grant to.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. As a matter of fact, I got to send a press release out today. But for $84,000 to continue our environmental and energy conversations, our roundtables, and Saturday, October 15th, we will be hosting our annual conference. So y'all stay tuned because we love having guests as Miss April Jones to come on and talk about what they're doing. Because part of our environmental and energy programming are community gardens. And why community gardens? Because they do impact their communities, the neighbors who live right next door to them, but the neighbors in, globally, nationally, those neighbors. But community gardens, I've always wanted community gardens involved with our environmental and energy effort because I really see people having those conversations of how do I start a garden? Maybe there's a package where you give them that 4x4, the soil, the seeds, and they take it home and they start their little kitchen garden in their yard. Start small and grow. And do you have any thoughts of? I know you have the community garden, but let's say I'm your neighbor and I want just a little kitchen garden.
Yes.
How can you help your neighbor get started?
Well, we are going to be hosting some workshops about how to garden, and we'll also be hosting some workshops on seed sovereignty. So, check us out and keep in touch, and we'll get information out there. And I would also say that, what I would say about starting a kitchen garden is to start small. I think sometimes we are so eager to just overachieve. It's good to just start with one plant, one pot, and excuse me if my nails are dirty. I was working in the soil today. One plant, one pot, and start from there. And so, start with a mint. I'm a big mint girl. I love mint tea. My family loves mint tea. And that is so refreshing, especially in this cold weather. I would just start off with something small and then expand slowly based on your likes, your preferences, and go from there. Rosemary in your front yard is always normally a good experience. Sometimes I've been known to kill a rosemary here or there, but when they do, root and do well, that's a really easy plant to start out with in your front yard or in a pot.
Now, April, rosemary is kind of hard to kill.
I am into being honest. I try to be a very honest person, and I have killed at least 5 rosemaries in my life. I mean, I don't know. I may overwater. I may not plant it in the right soil. I haven't figured it out. But, I am all about endurance and, unending enthusiasm. And so I've planted more, and I've had success.
All right, very good. Very good. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, I'm with you with the mint. I have spearmint, and I want to say peppermint in my yard. Rosemary, I do have cilantro, and what I noticed is the cilantro lasted longer this year because we had that hot spell over Christmas. So the cilantro lasted longer this year. Asparagus. Do you guys throw asparagus in your community garden? And the reason I did asparagus is because asparagus, you start harvesting asparagus in the third season. And so this spring will be my third season. So I'm just looking forward to see how the asparagus responds. It grows the first and second season, but you don't harvest it until the third season. And the nice thing about asparagus is if you take care of your asparagus, it can actually produce, in some cases, for up to 50 years. So imagine this, if you're a asparagus freak over asparagus, and you can enjoy it for up to 50 years and not replant it. But so I'm going to see if I can make it to the third year. I'm definitely looking forward to harvesting my asparagus. And that's just the fascinating thing about gardening and everything. This just, the annuals, the perennials, and what can last multiple years, depending on
Absolutely.
what you plant. And I'm really looking forward to that asparagus. Hopefully it'll do its thing this coming year where I can harvest asparagus. Just the thought that I can go out in my garden and harvest asparagus, I'm really looking forward to that.
You.
Yeah.
I don't have the patience for asparagus. I'm like, not that I want it right now, but I just like to see it like in like 90 days is my goal. Sometimes I wait 180, 240. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I've waited too many days. But one crop that I did grow that took a really long time was cotton. That is a long crop. I just had some random seeds from a friend. I put them in, and I think it's like 240 days. And then it, poofs, like cotton. But that's a long crop. And so I personally tend to like do the 30-day crops, like the radishes, carrots. I'm always down. We're big carrot eaters here. But yeah, the shorter term is what I normally.
What I learned, April, is especially I did it with sweet potatoes.
Okay.
And the asparagus is another one. Those type of long crops, you plant them, then forget about them.
Yes.
Because if you worry over them, then it literally is gonna mess you up. But with sweet potatoes, asparagus, and then I was trying to do ginger. I did see the root. It did take root, but my yard guy accidentally cut the ginger, so I don't know if it survived or not. The green shoot that came up. Yeah. I had that, but I planted it. Then I said, in my head, I just told myself, now forget about it.
Yeah.
And just kind of make sure every once in a while that the soil moisture is correct.
Yes.
But if you get good rains and stuff, you don't necessarily have to worry about that. But plants that take a while, like sweet potatoes, asparagus in particular, when I planted it, I knew, Marilyn, you're going to have to forget about this. Just make sure it does come up. And it came up 2 years in a row. Well, the first year I planted it and I had to replant it. So once it died down and I created a more organized vegetable bed, I transplanted it after it had died down. I literally just picked it up, put it in that area, covered it up again. It came back the second year. I did not even touch it. It was getting the water. It grew well and everything. So I could see it, but I didn't go over there and mess with it because I had to convince myself, forget about it, Marilyn. Let it do its thing, because in the third year is when you're really going to have to look at it.
Absolutely.
But, so those long growing ones, you are right. If you're wanting that gratification, a little bit more 30, 90, 60, 90-day gratification, you're not going to get it with certain plants, but you can certainly just plant it, then forget about it.
Absolutely. And that's like exactly what you're saying is so important about gardening, is that you can create your own beautiful paradise, really. If you have the ability and the willpower to wait a very long time, you can just specialize in long-term crops. Like you said, like asparagus that will just last forever. And then if you just feel like you just want that little crop right now and you're really busy and you just can't wait, you can specialize in all the varieties of radishes and, your mixed greens and your collards and your kales and your salad mixes. Those are all really quick, boopity boop coming up. And then if you wanted something long-term, you could do the mints. I mean, it's just all about, like you said, your personal preference and what you want to create.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I think I've decided in the last few days that I'm actually going to do a spot in my front yard. I'm going to take the front yard, and there's a movement in that people say,
Yes.
instead of planting grass, plant a garden, because grass that we grow in our yards is actually not natural. That's a hybrid that's been developed. And it's
Yes.
actually not necessarily good for the environment because it takes more
Exactly.
water. You got to do the pesticides and stuff. Where
Yes.
if you do a garden in your, and I really have in the last few days decided there's a certain section in my front yard that I'm just going to plant in that. Not only my vegetable bed that's in a certain area, that I'm going to take that front yard piece and put I'm gonna put some cardboard down the soil and everything, and I'm gonna grow in my front yard.
Yes.
Because that's where and you know why? Going back to the beginning of our conversation, where the sun, I started the sun. It's I got a good spot in the corner of the backyard. That's gonna be good for partial sun.
Okay.
That's what taught me this past year. The front yard is more direct sun.
Yes.
So I'm gonna plant certain plants in the front yard, and I'm very open to my neighborhood. If they want to come get some of it, go ahead and get some of it, because it'll be more than enough for me.
Yes, absolutely. And there is, like you said, so much bounty in the land, and it gives us an opportunity to be grateful and also to share reciprocity with our neighbors and to share our love and our care with our neighbors. And like you said, just giving some collard greens away, giving some carrots away. It's a small gift of gratitude, but it makes a huge impact on people in our society.
It most certainly does. It most certainly does. So sadly, we are coming to the end of our show, and I've so enjoyed this conversation with you, April.
Yes.
So as we wrap up, what are some words of wisdom that you would like to share with us and our viewing audience regarding the Pinehurst Farmers Market, the community garden, and the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I think that I'm just so grateful for the fabulous and amazing people in our community. I feel like we as a city are becoming more resilient, becoming more sovereign, and really having an opportunity to talk about the issues that are happening in our society and in our city, and gardening and being in the sustainable movement is an awesome opportunity for us to start the dialogue about land access, about seed sovereignty, about common areas, about healing from the trauma of domestic violence through sustainable, holistic ways that we can heal our society from the traumas we all experienced through COVID, through sustainable, holistic ways. And one of those ways is what we talked about, which is planting a seed, finding the seed that you love, the crop that you love, and really connecting with our neighbors and with our community, and just building a bigger and brighter future for tomorrow.
Very true. And thank you. That's just so true and profound. So thank you very much for those words. We need to say that. We are all interconnected. And until we start talking to each other, it is about our future, the future of all of us. So thank you for those kind words, those profound words, April. And thank you for coming on The Gathering Place. This is why I do it.
Thank you.
We can have these conversations, and hopefully somebody will learn something, and someone too will go out and grow their community garden. Start small.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much for having me on. It's been such an honor and such a pleasure to talk to you and to your amazing wide audience. I'm just so appreciative of you allowing me time to talk about the work that I'm doing. And I thank you so much for the solidarity and the care.
You're welcome, April. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your week, and Happy New Year. It's still the new year. And we'll be in touch. Thank you, April.
Take care.
Well, everyone, that's April Jones with Pinehurst Farmers Market. Delighted to have her join us today. And I want to just thank her, and also Harley Richardson with Georgetown County Planning and Code Enforcement, talking about our land use here in Georgetown County. At the bottom of the screen, we've had scrolling the entire show the link for our comprehensive plan in Georgetown County. It is so important that we get involved regarding land use. And a community garden is a good example. Green spaces. If you want those in your vision for your local government, whether it's the city or county, please get engaged with your city and county. That's why we brought Harley on, in particular for Georgetown, our hometown, where we're filming out a gathering place. But in your hometown too, go to your website, go to your local newspaper, find out what's going on in your community and get involved, folks, because you can make a difference. You too can have a community garden. Always delighted to have you here as our viewers. My name is Marilyn Hemingway. Today's Second Wednesday Environment and Energy Show has been brought to you by the United States Energy Foundation. We're so excited to have them as a sponsor. Our next show coming up, third Sunday, you know what it is, folks. Politics Talk. Jamar Brown, Brandon Upson will be here, and we'll be talking politics. And we're going to have our special guest, Pastor Thomas Dixon from Charleston, as we go into the Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. We're going to talk about what's going on in Texas, why local politics is important, and Thomas Dixon is going to give his take on Martin Luther King and his relevance today. So join us, folks, this Sunday at 4 p.m. for our third Sunday Politics Talk on A Gathering Place. Folks, we enjoyed you as always. Thank you for joining us today, and enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good one and good night.